If you're spending your time with toxic, negative, cynical people, that's going to create a cloud of negativity that can really damage your emotional health and well-being. I call it like passive smoking. People that blame and complain, people that are like revolutionary armchair theoreticians. Just took that out of the back pocket. Revolutionary armchair theoreticians. Arguing for their limitations. Anybody know any people like that in their space? Their families, workplaces, communities? I know you too. And so self-care becomes really important. To inoculate yourself against this needless negativity. To inoculate yourself against a world of disease, a world of distraction, a world of disharmony. In fact, the World Health Organization only last year, it's really interesting. You know, a lot of doctors, health professionals get burned out. They just can't take it anymore. And I was there myself a few years ago. Just emotionally exhausted. So I had to write my own prescription for happiness. See, I've learned the only person I can change in this world is myself. I can't change Jerry. I don't want to change Jerry. I can't change John. I can't change anybody. I can only hope to change myself. And I'm glad I had the courage to do that. And you can too. But the World Health Organization now has said that the Hippocratic Oath has been changed. So that now doctors must prioritize their own self-care and well-being as part of being a doctor. That's brand new. So that is a really, really positive step, I think, towards a better healthcare system in the future than the one we have right now. So, you know, I'm a learner, I like to learn. I find people, the reason I became, I'll tell you later on about that, but you know, I love learning. And I find people fascinating. And if you listen, truly listen, people will tell you all sorts of interesting things. People will open up. And so I learned that Miriam and Jerry got married here in this beautiful place, I believe nearly 2 years ago. So I know this is a special place for Jerry and Miriam. So I was thinking about the word inspiration. And I think this is appropriate, but there was a very smart guy called Patanjali, and about 2,300 years ago he founded this really cool thing called yoga, which is really the beginning of, I suppose, mind, body, spirit connection. And he wrote these few lines of inspiration, which I want to share with you. He said, when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project in your life, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you will find yourself in a brave and wonderful new world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents awaken within you, and you discover yourself to be far capable than you ever thought possible. Inspiration. So I'm inspired by Jerry and Miriam for having the courage to get out of their comfort zone and bring us all here today. So I think a round of applause for Jerry and Miriam. Here's the thing. We can all be leaders in our own well-being. We can all be leaders in our own well-being. Active participants, rather than passive consumers of healthcare. But so few of us do. I call it health IQ, having the having the smarts, learn the right knowledge, have the right awareness, take the appropriate actions to think, feel and be at your best. So few do now. You know, we have victims of all sorts of things in the world. Stuff happens. Tsunamis, trees fall. We're all dealt a deck of cards in life. None of us is immune from stuff that happens. It's called life. But choosing to be a volunteer victim, that's different. You see, if you choose to be a volunteer victim, you've decided, I'm going to hang on to my self-righteous suffering because I'm entitled to suffer. And everyone around me is going to suffer too. Volunteer victim. You see, volunteer victims have a mindset of mediocrity. They know that they know enough. But leaders, they never stop learning. Leaders have a growth mindset that says, hey, I'm on a journey towards mastery here. Journey that's never going to end. Victims value scarcity, but leaders value abundance and appreciation. Victims are reactive, always reacting to the noise, to the distraction. Leaders are responsive. Victims resist change. Victims say, I can't change. I don't need to change. Everyone else needs to change. Not me. Leaders embrace change for the new possibilities it can provide. See, I suppose victims, volunteer victims, are pessimists. Rooted to their negativity. Leaders are optimists. See, it comes down to this. Volunteer victims say, good God, morning. But leaders say, good morning, God. Good morning, God. Putting God first. That's what I believe. Putting God first in everything I do. Putting God first in everything I value. Putting God first in everything I stand for. There are many times in my life that I've ignored God. Forgotten about Him. But He's never given up on me. So now, I'm tired of saying that. So, is there anybody here from Galway? Anybody here from Glenamaddy? Yeah, so my granny was from Glenamaddy. And Jerry's from Glenamaddy too, which is really interesting. And so my granny married my grandfather at the Matchmakers Festival in Lisdoonvarna. About 100 years ago. They then went off to Scotland where he ran a practice in the East End of Glasgow. They had 10 children. My mother and her twin sister were the youngest two of the 10. So I suppose what I'm saying is I always wanted to be a doctor. You know, since I was 6, 7 years old, anyone asked me at school, what are you going to be, Mark, when you grow up? I'm going to be a doctor. And I know my granddad DJ had a big impact on that. But you know, when he was a doctor, things were pretty different. And he took the Hippocratic Oath, like all of us. First, do no harm. But he didn't have all these pills that he could prescribe. And it was such an exciting breakthrough when penicillin became available, because now for the first time he could treat pneumonia, he could treat rheumatic fever, he could treat all sorts of things. But just as all that glitters is not gold, so more of a good thing isn't necessarily better. Fast forward to nowadays. The pill for every ill. I was saying this morning, we have a tsunami of chronic health conditions. The average person has 3. And if they were all going to be on the tablets that medicine can prescribe, that would be 15 tablets a day, more than 450 a month, more than 5,000 a year. That's a lot of side effects. In fact, legally prescribed medicine now is now the third leading cause of death in the Western world, behind cancer and heart disease. We've got pills nowadays for all sorts of things. Internet shopping disorder. Really? So I'm told. The pill that promises protection from aging. The increasing medicalisation of normality. Pre-diabetes. Pre-death. What are you suffering from? I'm suffering from pre-death. Well, you better get on a pill for that, for pre-death. And in the background, the poster boy with their persuasive advertising, fanning the flames, fueling demand, funneling an illness-based model of healthcare towards what I call Pharmageddon. Pharmageddon, the pill for every ill. So I'm not anti-pill. In fact, penicillin could have successfully treated my granddad's rheumatic fever, which killed him later on. Modern medicine can be life-saving. But I believe we need less medication. We need less surgical interventions. And that's why I want to talk about lifestyle. Lifestyle as medicine. Evidence-based, scientifically backed up. So one of the interesting things I've discovered is when you meet people all day, every day, how different people are. And we're all so unique. But you meet people that are the same age, look at the computer and they're both like 45. But look at them in front of you and they're extremely different. The first person might look 21, the next person might look 70. And they might talk the same way too. I've lost track of the number of guys 35 years of age who are retired. Retired in their minds. But 80% of what happens to your DNA is down to your lifestyle. So, hands up who's been to London. London town, as they call it. So you know those red buses? Are you looking on the double-decker buses in London? So there were these two guys in the story, Dick and Dave. Dick and Dave, lifelong friends. They both worked on London bus for 30 years. Dick sat up front. He was the driver. That a good impersonation of a driver? And Dave was down the back. Dave was the going up and down the stairs. He was the conductor. They both smoked. Anybody here smoke? There's always one. I admire your honesty. They all smoked back then. I mean, if you had a sore throat, you were told to smoke more, right? 1950s, everything changes. Anyway, poor Dick dropped dead of a heart attack at the age of 50. And he was the latest in a long line of bus drivers to die early. So England sent its top doctor in to check things out. And he made two very interesting observations. Firstly, Dick smoked, as did all the other drivers who had died early from heart disease. But he also looked at the health statistics of Dave and the other conductors. And he found that they got half the amount of heart disease than the drivers did. Half. Even though they all smoked just as much. And that was the first hard scientific evidence back in the 1950s exercise and movement is good for your health. Now I call exercise the greatest pill of all, and at this stage, now this is a cue for John and everyone else to stand. Now would be a good time to stand up. I'm serious. Come on, John. Everyone else, please, as well. I call exercise the greatest pill of all, because it is so incredibly good for us, reducing heart disease, cancer, many chronic diseases. But I think the best benefits from exercise, and now we can all start jogging on the spot. The greatest benefits from exercise is what it does to the space. I use that word deliberately, the space between your two ears. Because what it does, it brings on hormones like serotonin. Okay, good. It brings on. Okay, you can sit down now. Great.
I want to go.
Do people feel a little bit more energized after moving? So exercise brings on what I call the biochemical cocktail of brilliance. The biochemical cocktail of brilliance. Serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, brain-derived neurotrophic factor allowing you to grow newer brain cells, stronger connections between your existing brain cells, damping down the stress response, putting cortisol back in its box, putting fear and needless negativity back in its box, and allowing you to think, feel, and be close to your creative best. Exercise. So incredibly good for us. Turning on healing genes, turning off inflammation. So that's my bit about exercise. I suppose one of the things I've learned more than anything else is how connected every aspect of our health and well-being really is. You know, that your physical health, I mean, I think Jerry mentioned it earlier on the numbers 30. You know that your physical health is connected to your mental health, and your mental health is connected to your emotional well-being, and your emotional well-being and mental health and physical health are all connected to your relationships, and all of that's underpinned by a strong sense of purpose. So everything is kind of connected. It's a real aha moment actually to just understand that, how connected everything is. I mean, I only learned that a few years ago. I've been in healthcare for a long, long time. So I want to give you a few examples of what I mean by this. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Imagine if that was true. Imagine how powerful an idea if simply choosing to eat an apple a day could keep the doctor away. And then you learn about the psychobiotic revolution and the gut-brain connection and the 50 trillion volts that live in your gut. 50 trillion, that's a big number. Producing now more than 70% of the happiness hormone serotonin, boosting your immune system, lowering inflammation. We are what we eat. We are what we repeatedly eat, because we eat 3 times a day, 1,100 times a year, 11,000 times in the next 10 years. Those small choices you make in terms of what you eat can have a big impact on your health. If you eat an apple half an hour before your main meal, you did, it will reduce your caloric intake by about 10% between the apple and the meal. This is full of fibre, and this came from my own garden. And one of my favourite homemade apple pie, you can't beat it. Birds of a feather. Birds of a feather flock together. We all become our associations. We all become like the 5 people we spend most time with, right throughout our lives. Just think about that. What a liberating thought that might be. What a scary thought that might be. We become our associations. The mirror neuron in the brain, we copy, mimic and imitate those people we spend most time with. And it also applies to our lifestyle habits. I spoke about emotional positivity earlier. You know, if you drink green smoothies and you do yoga and you meditate, chances are that's what the people around you are going to be doing as well. If you're a couch potato and you eat French fries and you want to be a volunteer victim, you're going to have a lot of that around you too. So we do become our associations. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. What I've learned is what people often forget is the early to bed bit. Yeah, I want to get up at 5 in the morning, I'm going to write my goal, I'm going to run 10 miles, I'm going to kick ass in the office all day long. And I'm going to survive on 5 hours sleep. So what we now know is that restorative sleep, there's an amazing wealth of science emerging about the power of sleep. If you get does anybody here, that's a moment of truth, does anybody here get less than 6 hours sleep a night? Few people, any men get less than 6 hours? So there's recent evidence that if you get less than 6 hours sleep a night, your lifetime risk of heart attack goes up more than 200%, less than 6 hours a night. Your risk of diabetes, depression, even long-term memory loss, dementia rises dramatically. The risk of some cancers goes up. The risk of road traffic accidents from microsleeps rises significantly. And you know, if you're sleep deprived, you're going to gain weight. Yeah, anytime I say that, I always get an immediate silence in the room. If you're sleep deprived, you're going to gain weight. You're going to crave carb-rich calories the next day, maybe up to an extra 500. Your willpower muscle will be through the floor. You'll feel more anxious, more stressed, less able to concentrate. And it's remarkable what lack of sleep can do to us. So, you know, if you're interested in improving any aspect of your health and well-being, I'd really encourage you to start with last night and start with your sleep. It really is, it's really interesting how sleep can really make everything better, or how sleep can make everything worse. The last example I want to give you is just the example of expressing gratitude, because there's a beautiful poem by Sadi called The Rose Garden. It was written in 1259. There's 2 lines in that poem. I bemoaned the fact I had no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet. I bemoaned the fact I had no shoes till I saw the man who had no feet, because gratitude, the essence of gratitude, is wanting what you have. Not to have what you want, to want what you have. We live in a world where there is so much gratitude deficiency. But when you express gratitude, write down 3 things every day for a month. Boost your emotional well-being by up to 25%. Strengthen the grey matter in your brain, making you less reactive to stress and feeling more peaceful, less resistant to change, more open to change. You'll improve your physical health, you'll sleep better at night time. You'll drop your systolic blood pressure. You'll be better able to stick with any new plan or program you set for yourself. You'll strengthen your relationships. You'll be like a magnet, attracting energy towards you. So expressing gratitude is an incredible way to boost all aspects of your health and well-being. So has anybody here ever been to, is there anybody here that's not from Ireland? I suppose that's the, where are you from? The US, okay. Anybody else? Mm-hmm. Anywhere else? Beautiful. So we really got a really eclectic global audience, which is fantastic. You know, when I went to school as many people in the audience did, you would have heard about this story called Tír na nÓg. And Tír na nÓg is where Diarmid had Grania on his back on the horse, and they went off to Tír na nÓg to live happily ever after. And Tír na nÓg was this mythical place where you did live forever. You were forever young. Now, I don't think a place like that exists, but there are places around the world called blue zones. And blue zones are areas, places like the island off Greece, Okinawa off Japan, mountainous areas in Sardinia. These are areas where you've got a 300% increased chance of living beyond 90. Anybody here interested in that? 300% increased chance of living beyond 90. That's not just giving you 900 months, that's bringing you up to 1,080 months and more. And what's interesting when you look at these areas, as I have, they cultivate mindful eating. It's a Confucian concept, hara-hashi-bu. Hara-hashi-bu? Hara-hashi-bu, eat until you're no longer hungry, as opposed to eating until you're full up. Because it takes the tummy about 20 minutes to tell the brain, hey, I had enough to eat here, I'm full up. So mindful eating, mindless movement, making movement the default position, cultivating a strong sense of purpose, family, faith, community, and being able to unplug from stress. So I think it's really interesting to look at these areas and see, well, how could I bring more of a blue zone mentality into my own life and into my own day? And one of the interesting things for me was when I learned about Dick and Dave and the bus drivers, I had to say to myself, how can I bring more movement into my work as a doctor on a day-to-day basis? Because one of the problems of being a doctor is you spend a lot of your day sitting down. You're sitting down in your chair and you've got a computer. So I teach young GPs, and we don't sit down for an hour now anymore and discuss cases. We now walk around the block and discuss cases. So we talk and walk. I call it talking. Talking. So that's the first thing I did. Second thing I said is, anytime the phone rings in my room, I'm going to stand up before I answer the phone. So that's a brilliant way of building a new habit, is to piggyback something onto something else. So you go answer the phone, but let's stand up. And the third thing I've done is, I get to travel quite a bit, and anytime I'm on an aeroplane, you land, and you come up to the stop, and you get off the plane, and you walk around, and you end up at this space. Over here there's an escalator, a narrow escalator, and everyone is queuing up to go up this escalator. And over here there's a wide stairs. Usually wide stairs. And most times I come around to this kind of choice point, the stairs is empty. And I go up the stairs 2 steps at a time. Because that's my reminder to me that I can choose to be a leader in my own well-being. And that the small choices I make do make a difference. Everybody with me so far? People willing to hear a little more, or you've had enough? More, okay. I want to talk about something called soul sickness. Because, I want you to think about this soul space. I was thinking about soul space, thinking about soul sickness. I really began to realize how much soul sickness there is in the world. People who've lost that sense of who they are. People who are no longer able to express their strengths or talents. People who feel unable to really be a contribution in the world. I mean, we make a living with what we get. We make a life with what we give. Perhaps people that have lost that sense of connection to their values, lost that inner, the Japanese call it ikigi, that inner sweet spot. I call it the secret sauce for a life of real vitality. The essence of purpose. And people have lost that ability to master the art of fulfillment, make a difference, make something with meaning. And they just lose sense of who they are. They lose sense of who they are in the world. And they become sick. More people get heart attacks early on Monday mornings, going to jobs they've learned to hate, than any other time during the week. People make themselves sick because on the inside they're empty. See, when you were born as a beautiful baby. Can you just think back to when you were born? All those baby pictures. Boundless energy, limitless potential. You didn't care about Brexit when you were born. You didn't care about the economy. As long as you were fed and kept warm, you were happy. But then you buy into the enculturation matrix. All the ideas and all the noise and all the values of those people around you. Your family, your friends, your teachers, your community. You take on an ego. I took on one too. We all do. You took on an addiction to self. I call it egocentricity. Entitlement, expectancy, the greatness of me. A place of gratitude deficiency. A place of gratitude non-existence. Where you're obsessed with getting ahead. You're obsessed with getting one up on the next person. You're obsessed with thoughts of scarcity. Thoughts that say, I'm not good enough. Thoughts that say, it's too late for me to change now. And all those thoughts of what I call misplaced fear. When you were born as a beautiful baby, you only had two fears. Fear of falling and fear of loud noises. And all the other fears are makey-uppy fears. We make them up in the amygdala of our brain and then we bring them into reality. There's so many fears driven by ego. Fear of failure. The biggest fear on the planet. Fear of public speaking. They say fear of public speaking is even bigger than fear of death. I think it depends on the audience myself. And the third biggest fear of dying while public speaking. Oh yeah, and all the other ones, fear of being rejected, fear of being ridiculed, fear of being laughed at, fear of growing old, fear of loss of your key relationship, loss of your life savings, loss of your identity, fear of missing out. All those fears. Einstein said, the most important question you need to ask yourself, do I choose to live in a hostile or a friendly universe? If you live in a hostile universe, you're living in a place with fear and ego and needless negativity. If you choose to live in a friendly universe, you're living in a place with more love, more compassion, more hope, more inspiration, more possibility. So quantum mechanics, this is brilliant. We don't just exist as matter, we are also a field of energy. So you're sitting here right now, and if you were to take off your clothes or turn off the lights, you'd be skin and bone and muscle. Then you flip down through all the different subatomic particles, and you look at carbon and oxygen and hydrogen and all magnesium and phosphate and all those little trace elements. Then you go beyond. And you find there's nothing there. Because particles do not come from particles. You came from a field of energy that is infinite, with no boundaries. Particles do not create particles. Particles do not come from particles. You came from a field of energy. You came from a space, soul space. So don't let anyone ever tell you that who you are is what you do, or that who you are is what other people say about you, or that who you are is what you have, or your material possessions. You are so much more than that. And when you embrace your inner why, you have more connection between knowledge and wisdom, more connection between ego and selfless service. You become more of a real leader in your own well-being, expressing real energy in the world. You have alignment of thought, word and action, real authenticity. Able to live by the golden rule of self-care, letting go of the past and being more present, letting go of resentment and cultivating forgiveness, letting go of the need to be right and impress others, and simply embracing acceptance. Mark Twain once said about forgiveness, forgiveness is like the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Such power in forgiveness. And as you move back to spirit, as you move back to being more present, you can discover that you are greater than you ever thought possible. So, if you ever come to the southeast of Ireland, we've got a beautiful greenway, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm very lucky we live near the greenway, and I often walk on it. I call it my creative laboratory. It's where I think up my ideas. It's where I like to disconnect from the noise of the world and just literally be with nature and doing exercise. I'm a great believer in it. And when I came home from the greenway about 2 years ago, I was doodling in my journal, as one does, and before I knew it, I'd written this poem. And I'm going to share it with you now. It's for each and every one of you, for me to express my gratitude for your attention, for you being here, and really all wish you well in your onward journey. So this poem is called Soul Breath. May the breath of your soul be your wisdom guide. May the beacon of your soul bring respite inside. May you bring presence to all that you do. May care and compassion be that which is you. May you have the gift of wisdom and staying awake. May each dawn bring you presence, not to forsake. Dusk find you grateful for the helter-skelter. May night bring security, serenity of shelter. As day turns to night and month turns to year, may the passing of time bring you no fear. Each day you toil, as life's depths take their toll, may loveliness and light bring breath to your soul. Thank you all very much.